Guten Morgen, lads and lassies, and welcome back to the YouTube. So today, as I'm sure you've seen from the caption and the title of this video, we are going to learn how to transfer on a rail, which looks a little bit like this. So that is a transfer box, and that is transferring it. Now, whether you're doing it on a transfer box or something way more difficult or even easier, the rules and the principles that I'm going to teach you in this video are basically always going to apply. So before we start, I want to say the reason we're doing how to transfer is because a week ago, I put it on my Instagram and I said, what tutorial would you like on the cable? A lot of people got back to me with suggestions of tricks I've already done, things like railies, basic inverts, how to make it to the end of the rail. So if you haven't seen those tutorials, hit the playlist and watch any tutorial, because we've done a lot over the years, and then today we're obviously going to learn how to transfer. So the first thing we got to talk about before we start is what fundamentals or what basics do you need to do a transfer. Basically, you need to have a good board control on the water and good control on a rail. In other words, you need to be able to do a board slide or a 50-50, or ideally do like lip slides and things like that, as it's always going to help. And the more control you have, the more likely you are to learn this easy and, most importantly, without actually hurting yourself. So I would always suggest learning it backside, or basically heel side, as it is a good bit easier. But in this video afterwards, I'm also going to show you how to do a toe side, because I understand at some cable parks you have no option and you have to learn a toe side as opposed to heel side, or front side as opposed to backside, whatever way you want to put it. But let's start with heel side. So the most important thing, without a doubt, when you're doing a transfer is your approach and your edge towards the obstacle. Now, this can completely vary depending on your cable park, because if you've got an obstacle really close to being underneath the cable, then you're going to need very little edge. But if it's like the cable where I ride, it's quite far out, you actually need to put a bit of energy into it and almost do an edge quite late. Rule of thumb though is always start underneath the cable, or if anything, slightly to the opposite side. Then you're going to have to play around with the edge, but generally you're going to need a little bit more of an aggressive edge than you would on a normal rail hit, because obviously you're starting on the inside and you want to transfer out into the bigger rail, let's say. So start with a nice hard edge, then as you get to the rail, like always, flatten off so you don't go slipping out. And then this is the secret. With this front knee, with anything on rails, whether it's ollieing on or let's say transferring, as long as the front knee is higher than the back leg, you're always going to be able to slip kind of onto the side of it. So lift that front knee, then I actually open the shoulders a little bit and try and go down board slide. The reason we do board slide is because that way, if you go to this side of the rail or this side of the rail, you'll get away with it. As 50-50, you've less circumference, so you're more likely to stack it. And we're doing our best to avoid stacks because they hurt. So yeah, go board slide, and then just as you come off, just come off like you normally would. I don't really have to teach you that, because I'm guessing if you're learning a transfer, you know how to come off. So that is basically the heel side one. Now I'm going to go over here and we're going to learn how to do the toe side one, because being truthfully honest, it's a little bit more technical. And I'm gonna say it's like slightly more dangerous. I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but it's a little bit more risky, let's say. There's more involved and it needs a little bit extra skill. Like the heel side one, you want to start underneath the cable, or if anything, slightly to the opposite side. Then you want to read your edge depending on the rail, if it's far away or close. But generally, like I said before, a little bit more of an aggressive edge than you would if you were just doing the normal rail. Take that approach in, then as you get to the kicker right before, I'd actually suggest taking your back hand off, or if anything, you could just completely edge with one hand. Then as you go up the kicker, or up the, let's say the up ramp side, this is where it's really important, because you have to really get a lot of pop, and my advice would be try and over pop it if anything, because earlier I was saying you need to lift up your front foot, but because we're basically going to be doing a lip slide, which is where your back foot goes over the rail, you really have to get that extra pop, and then you want to lift up your back foot to get up over the rail, shoulders open, look in front of you, down it like a board slide, and then again you can just pop off like you normally would. But it's so important to get that back foot up, but people tend to rush it. It's probably the most common mistake, is people panic and they try and get the back foot up before jumping off it, and then they don't get any pop, and then they stack it, and then it's a trip to the hospital, which we don't want to do. So make sure to break it down to the steps by really getting your pop. When you feel like you're then in the air, then lift up that back knee and get it over it, and then boom, you've landed it, and it's pretty cool. So that is how you transfer. Now I hope it's helped you massively, because I remember when I was trying my first ever one, it was on Nessie, which is a rail at OWC, and I remember how daunting it was. It was so intimidating, and somehow back then I had no instruction, I just basically got the balls to do it. And that is probably the third key factor to this, is actually just kind of manning up and going for it. Like, it's scary, it's intimidating, but if you hold on, then the chances are the cable will pull you away from the rail and away from danger. So just try and think positively about it, and just don't be too scared, because at the end of the day, if 1 million people can do it, there's no reason why you can't do it. So just try and be cautious with it, take the appropriate steps, and then you should be all good. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope it's helped you, and thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more tutorials, then click the playlist, watch away, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.